There we go. Now I'm unmuted. Hi, welcome to the Spotlight webinar for August 2026. Today, we have much to discuss because we are going to discuss several new enhancements that have been added to the product for version 6.1.200. And I am having trouble sharing my screen, but eventually I think I'll be able to get it done. There we go. So today in our session, we are going to discuss some new additions to the Apruvia AI control. Now, I realize that none of you have the Apruvia AI control, or at least a very, very small number of you might, but for the most part, you don't have it. We are continuing to add functionality to it. We're going to cover that. We've improved the Choose System Variable dialog box. It certainly clears up something that I have personally found irksome, and I'm happy to see this change, so we'll demonstrate that. We've also enhanced workspace navigation and how it works by creating an entirely new drop-down functionality so that you can create menus in the workspace navigation bar. And there are a couple of other more minor enhancements we'll talk about. And then finally, we'll wrap it up talking about some bug fixes that we've implemented over the past month. So the Apruvia AI control, as I indicated, we're still adding new features to this. By the time 6.1.200 comes out, the Apruvia AI control will be relatively mature for a new feature because we keep going back and looking through it and altering the behavior and making changes to it to make the control just easier to use and more functional in the way that it works. In this particular case, for what we've changed over the past month, we've added button customization to it, and we've added chat and chatless styles so that you can use it with or without the AI chat box. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the control itself. Actually, you know what I might do to start off with is just run the form so that we can look and see what the control looks like here. Now, here is the default control. I've made no changes to colors or any other button functionality. And when you open it up, what it says is open Apruvia AI. And then when you click on it, it opens the Apruvia AI chatbot over here in the lower right side of the window. And that's all fine. That's the way it worked. But that open Apruvia AI may not be the text that you want to see on the form. So we've now allowed some more customization of it. We've actually allowed two new customizations for it. So if we click on the Apruvia AI control, it now has a text property. Now, the default is open Apruvia AI. So if you don't configure it, Process Director will automatically set this as the default. I believe when you first insert it, it actually says text there. So let's insert another Apruvia AI control. No, I was wrong. It does say open Apruvia AI whenever you first insert it. So that is the default, but of course, you can change that to whatever it is that you would like your button to say. And of course, it has all of the button control properties that any normal button control has. The other thing that we have added is this checkbox here to open the chat UI. This control has three different modes in which it can work. There is a standard mode, which is just the chat UI. Then there is a summary mode, and that summary mode will summarize one or more document attachments. There's an intake mode that will summarize a single document attachment and will also enable you to take information from the original document and insert it into Process Director form fields. And then there is this new feature here. I'm not going to talk about this feature yet, but it is a report builder feature that will actually build some administrative reporting in. Now, we've got a lot of the pieces of this working, not enough for me to show it to you yet. So fingers crossed, I'll be able to give you a better idea of what the report builder does and how it works next month. So just consider that a preview for it. But irrespective of that, any of these modes will display by default the chat box on the form so that people can, provide prompts and enter chats on the form. If you're in summary or intake mode, you may or may not want people to be able to chat with the chat box. You just may want that Apruvia AI control, because you can have multiple Apruvia AI controls on a form. You may just want that one form to do the intake feature, right? You want to provide it with a document attachment, have it summarize that document attachment, attach the summary to the form, and then also fill out some form fields. But you don't necessarily want people to be able to talk to the chatbot as part of this specific Apruvia AI control. And that's fine. You don't have to, because we've opened this Open Chat UI checkbox, which you can simply uncheck. And when you uncheck, the intake or summary function can run without displaying the chat UI. Obviously, if you're going to be in standard mode, you don't want to uncheck that, because then you have an Apruvia AI control that does nothing, and that wouldn't be very helpful. But it is helpful for summary, intake, and the upcoming report builder mode on the UI. So some changes there that I think will make life a little bit, I was about to say easier. It actually makes life a little bit more complex, because we keep giving you more and more options and adding more and more complexity to the control to make it useful in a variety of different situations. But that is the changes that we've made so far to the Apruvia AI control. Now the Choose System Variable dialog box. In fact, let me open up a new window and let me go to my training server. I just thought about doing this. I probably should have thought about it earlier, but let's go to the content list and let's just pick some random object. We'll use an old Spotlight webinar object, I guess. So here's one from 2021. It's got a form in it, and that's all I really want to look at. We are going to go into the set form data here, because I have a set form data on the other form. So this will be a perfect apples to apples comparison. So I want to set the value of a form. And in this case, I want to set it to a business value. I see all these menus here with all these different business values. It's really long, because I have a lot of business values. And for those of you who join me on the training webinar, where I actually use this system for the training webinar, whenever I have to do business values, it's always a little bit of a pain, because I just have so many. And I know that for some of you on your systems, you have a whole bunch of business values too. Now, that group in value picker, which creates these menu blocks, are great. But as you can see here, I've simply outgrown the drop-down menu, and my drop-down menu is very, very large, and it's sometimes hard to find items. In fact, look up here at the very top. I can't really see what that is because it literally goes out of screen. Same thing happens with business rules. I don't have as many business rules as I have business values on this system, but it's the same problem. So how do we solve that problem? Because it is a problem, and it is a bit of a pain sometimes to be able to find those items that you want as business values or business rules or goals or several other items, as we'll see. Well, what we've done is we have now added a new searchable menu option so that you can actually search for the business value you want. Now, This assumes that you know the business value's name, or at least part of it, so that you can search for it. Although I think generally in the case of implementation, when you're building something, you kind of know what business value you're looking to grab, so you most likely know the name of it. So there was a new option to make to open up a searchable menu. Basically, it's a content picker that is searchable so that you can search for the item that you want. The default behavior is unchanged. So this has to have one of two or both system variable or custom variables in your vars file to enable this new feature that we're about to look at. There is a new custom variable, and I wrote system variable here because apparently I'm an idiot. But the two custom variables that go in your vars file are use rule pop-up picker, which controls business rules, also machine language items and application events, app events for journal controls. And then there's the use goal pop-up picker, which changes the search UI for business values, goals, and cases. And when these two variables are set to true on your system, the default is false, so you won't see this by default. You have to intentionally enable this behavior. When you do, the content picker will open a searchable folder list so that you can go through and look for what it is that you want to see. So if we go back over here to my server and we'll go to the form definition itself, we'll go to set form data. And now I want to pick the object that I want to set form data on. And so let's assume that it's a business value property. This menu is missing some of these little carrots here that fold out into separate menus. For example, there's no fold out menu for the rule or for the goal or the machine learning object, or in the case that we're talking about, a business value property. So I want to set this business value property, but I don't want to have that huge menu. So I'll just click here. It will open up a new search item here. And I'll just click the object picker, and now I can search for it. So let's say I want my airports. I have that list of airports that I often use. So we'll just go with airport, and we will hit filter, and that finds all of the business values that have airport listed as part of the name. And so then I can just grab one and hit OK. And once I've done so, then I can go in and grab the particular business value property that I want. So this is a new feature that I think is going to make it convenient, especially if you have lots of business values, to be able to go in and set this properly with that searchable feature. So just keep that in mind, that is coming in 6.1.200 as well. Workspace navigation. Basically, we've added drop-down menus. Now, this requires that we make some changes to how workspaces are configured. There is now a new item in the top navigation buttons tab that is called a drop-down. And to make your drop-downs work, we have an entirely new tab called the secondary navigation buttons tab. So to make that work, and that is back to training, so we'll close that and jump back over here to this server for documentation. And we will go into settings and configuration and take a look at this menu here. This is my admin profile menu. Now it has a button to go home, but now it also has this admin items. Now this is a drop down, and all of the things that I used to have on this menu have now been added to the admin items drop down on my system. This is the admin profile workspace. So let's go ahead and open it and see its configuration. So on the top navigation buttons tab, I have now set this type to drop down. So drop down is right here. It's in the drop down list. This is the new navigation item. And the secondary navigation buttons tab won't work unless you have an item set as a drop down on the top navigation buttons tab. So in this case, I have, which I've called admin items, which you can see reflected up here in my workspace navigation bar. And then I go to the secondary navigation buttons tab, and you can see that I have my top button, and this is a drop-down that only shows the drop-downs that you have configured on the top navigation buttons tab. Now, I've only configured one, so that's my only possible selection here on the secondary navigation buttons tab. It's my admin items button. And for each one of these, now I can pick the navigation item that I want. And this is sort of the same navigation that we used to see on the top navigation buttons. Now, well, it's still basically the same one, except here it doesn't show drop-down as one of the options because we don't have nested drop-downs built yet. We just have the top level drop-down, which I think for most use cases is enough. But in any case, I can pick the item that I want. So in the first item, I've picked the data flow analyzer, the second, the running processes, third, forms I can submit, both of those knowledge views. I've got the content list, and then I've got the user settings button there as well. And so basically I can just use my dropdown to navigate back and forth to all of the different items that I have on the system. So that is, I think, a pretty neat thing that I think everybody's going to like. I don't think there's any drawbacks to that one. That is a big improvement on being able to build workspace navigation. As you may or may not know, whenever we upgraded to the 6.1 UI, that new UI already changed some of your workspace navigation. In fact, let's just go back and look up here. I used to have, and I don't think I have anymore. I think I went ahead and removed them because they were useless, but I used to have a logout button here and a couple of other buttons that I no longer need because if you have, say, a logout button, we've removed it from the workspace navigation automatically. No reason to have it because it merely replicates the logout button that exists here. Same thing, the user profile slide out that used to appear way over here on the very left-hand side. That's been removed because you can now just go straight to your profile from the drop-down menu, from your user drop-down menu. Moreover, we don't really need the, we have the workspaces menu, we have the content list, the home button. We don't need the IT admin area because we now have access to all of the admin, the IT admin, the 4 sections there, and the additional section for metadata administration. They all appear as part of the normal product UI. So we went ahead and removed them from workspace navigation. They're kind of superfluous because they already exist in the UI. And so that gave us some extra room to build more complex navigation bars. The dropdown is just a continuation of that. I used to have buttons for all of these items. These 5 items used to be navigation bar buttons, which of course took up a fair amount of horizontal space. With this dropdown, I can now place them all in an admin items menu, and then I can just pick them as I need them. And it now leaves me plenty of space for additional items that I might want to place inside the workspace navigation. So some other enhancements. The first is anonymous user one-time password. Now, I can't demo this because this server doesn't send email, actually, but there is a new setting to enable this. What we've had a request for is to, if we're going to have some sort of activity that we want an anonymous user to do, we've already had this allow anonymous users to be assigned by email address. That invokes the ability to just be able to have a form field on a form, put an email address in it, use that form field as the participant of the activity, which is essentially what I've done here. I've got a form field called email user, and then I can check this box to allow the user to be assigned that task. Now, the problem is, once that email goes out, I don't really have any way of ensuring that the person who clicks on the link in that email to open the form and perform their task is actually the person I want to perform the task. For example, an anonymous user could get that task notification email and then forward it, inadvertently or otherwise, to a third party who then now has the ability to click on the link, open up that form, and complete that task, even though they are not the user to whom the email was sent. So, when allow anonymous users to be assigned tasks by email address is checked, an additional property will appear. Now, by default, this property is disabled. It is called to require anonymous users to verify their email address with a one-time code. By default, it is off. So if I allow anonymous users, that enables this property, but it doesn't actually switch it on. When I switch it on, a one-time email, an email containing a one-time password will also be sent to the email address of the user. So when the user gets the notification and they try to open the form, when they do so, they'll get an additional email that contains a one-time password, and Process Director will ask them to input the one-time password into Process Director before it allows the form to open and allows the user to complete their task. So it does provide an additional layer of security for anonymous users, which I think is going to be useful for some of you, especially those in regulated industries or law firms, things like that. The type ahead user picker did not appear if you had F-enable accessibility set to true. Instead, if you had that setting set to true and you placed a user picker on the form, it would only show you the user picker dialog box where you had to manually, move users from, one side to the other. That's a little top heavy, and a lot of people complained that they didn't really like that, understood why we had done it, but they asked that we make the type ahead user picker work properly when F-enable accessibility is set to true in your custom vars file. This particular custom variable enables some additional accessibility features in Process Director. And I think there's a bit of a debate about how useful this still is because of the accessibility changes that we've already made over the past year or so as we were preparing for the Department of Justice's requirement that all public institutions had to comply with the American with Disabilities Act. The deadline had run out. They all had to be fully accessible. So that includes universities and municipalities and so forth. They have since put that deadline off until next year. But we did a lot of accessibility work. So there's a debate as to how much F-enable accessibility actually gives us now. But with all of that aside, and whatever the future of F-enable accessibility might be, you should know that if you currently have it set in 6.1.200, the user picker control will display as a type ahead, which is, I believe, what most people would prefer. The build version of the product now displays on the system information page, and you can see it. I've already used it here at the very top so we can see what the full build version is here. But if we go into settings, and I think it's troubleshooting and system information. Where is it? Where is it? There it is, system information. It will show you a build number here, which may become far more relevant in the future, because right now we are pretty regularly putting out updates and patch builds and things like that. Our turnaround on making fixes to the product and making them available has increased fairly rapidly. But this has caused a problem internally, Up until basically this week, all I really knew was that I was running a version of 6.1200, but I didn't really know much about what build it was. So internally, for our internal servers, it will be helpful for us to be able to just say, okay, I'm on build 26496, which would let the engineering team know immediately how far behind I was and what their builds were. And we may be changing how we discriminate between builds, because right now we're incrementing build numbers for, for even a build, I think 6.1.513. It has, I believe, or maybe 512, one of those two had a single bug fix included in it. And we incremented the version number. Not sure that that's what we want to do in the future. So we now have the ability to display the build number as well as the version number when we look at the system information on the system, which I apparently have just closed. So, yep, I clicked on it and it closed. So here we go. That's our version number. And down here is our build number. So that will appear for you as part of system information on all Process Director systems, starting with 6.1.200. Finally, let's get into some bug fixes to round off the half hour. If you were configuring something like a set form data and you were going to look at a business value, but you decided you would sort of set your controls that you wanted to change, and you were going to set it to a business value, but you didn't actually configure the business value property that you wanted, say perhaps you hadn't created it yet or what have you. When you save the form, all of those blank business value properties just would disappear. So it was checking to see if they were fully configured, and if they weren't, it was the system was deleting them. So we've changed that behavior. So if you do have those blank business value properties that are not fully configured, when you save, you won't lose the configuration that you already have. Another minor thing, and look, I should point out that I think several of these bugs are bugs that you will have never seen. Some you will, but some you won't have, because they're bugs that we've picked up in Q&A here. I don't always know what bugs are part of just our internal Q&A and what bugs may have made it out into the wild. So I tend to release note them all. So just keep in mind that these are not all stuff that you would see. And I think the analyzed timeline view is one of those where something happened, it wouldn't display the analyzed timeline view in a timeline definition. So we fixed that. The content list is still a little bit of a problem here and there for systems that have very large content lists. If you don't have a very large content list, you probably aren't seeing any of these behaviors, but the content list would just collapse unexpectedly. Part of this is because of the new lazy loading that we have implemented for systems that don't have very large, or systems that do have very large content lists. If your content list is small enough, we just load the entire thing into memory and it's always there. It never causes a problem. But for very large content lists, it does cause a problem. And so we're more selective about when we load those content list items. So this causes sometimes the content list to collapse because it loses its status of where it was in the lazy loading tree. And we call it lazy loading because we just don't load that portion of the content list until you click on it. Also caused some search issues where I'd try to search, and if I had lazy loading working, it wouldn't return the items because it had not loaded that portion of the content list. So we're working through that, and we have at least touched the unexpected content list collapse. An issue of the SDK not loading correctly. You'd try to load it in Process or in Visual Studio. It wouldn't load up all of the DLLs it required. Also, it's been a while since we have updated the Visual Studio plugin. And in fact, there's a new version of Visual Studio out that the old version doesn't appear to be compatible with. So we're going to be building a new Visual Studio plugin as well. There was an issue with custom tasks not being able to import them properly that we fixed. There were some very specific validation condition failures. You'd go in and do a validation rule on a form. You would try to set the validation condition on a date time field that also happened to be in an array, and it wouldn't respect your validation conditions. Business values, a lot of times you parameterize business values, and depending on how you do it, you might not need a parameter to send a parameter at all, right? You just send a blank parameter and it returns all the records. It doesn't filter anything, and you just get a bigger record set. And if you do send it to a parameter, you only get matching records. Fine, as far as that goes, but business values were failing to return anything if the parameter was null or blank, and that wasn't the behavior we wanted. We want things to work so that if you do send it a blank parameter, based on your SQL statement, it may return all of the records, which is the desired behavior. We've done some various CSS display and accessibility fixes. Our work in those areas never stops. And we had one error, kind of a edge case. If you push a file to SharePoint and the file that you push has been named with characters that SharePoint reserves and rejects, it would properly reject your file upload. Fine as far as that goes, but when you tried to rename the file and tried to re-upload it, it was still trying to push it with the old file name, which was getting rejected. So it wasn't recognizing that you had changed the file name and removed the problematic characters. So we've addressed that. That has been fixed as well. And that closes out, I believe, all of the bug fixes as well, which in turn closes out this edition of the Feature Spotlight webinar. Have a great month. We'll look forward to talking to you next month. For those of you who attend the training webinar, see you on Thursday. So long.